guys, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attacker Productions. Today I bankrupt joined once again by Tanner. It's been a while, buddy.
I'm Master B.
Hey guys,
Take two's gonna be bad too.
Take 73. Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attacker Productions. Today I bankrupt joined once again by Tanner. It's been a while, buddy.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
It's you bring anything exciting?
Yeah, I borrowed all these cards from Bancroft and everybody, so thanks again for letting me use that.
Oh, you're welcome.
So this is Gotenks. It's pretty much
buttons.
Yeah, click them. Pretty much builds itself. The leader has been going around. A lot of people are liked it. It's gained traction here lately. I know you guys don't like talking about the leader, but it's great because it's self.
No one says that anymore. Explain it to Fluff already.
Okay. Well, I think it's cool. Draws.
I think doing a light discussion of leaders is not bad, but don't read it word for word.
I don't care about this is Gotenks. It attacks when it draws. Okay, so it's Awaken condition, which is nice. It's an early Awaken. You get the Unison on board, untap one, draw one. That's what makes it good. And you get to the backside, which its abilities are pretty relevant. It still draws when it attacks, but you can pay one, put 2 ghost tokens in rest mode, or you can use Unison management and remove a marker. I think that's actually very relevant in a lot of matchups. So it's a really good leader. It does a lot, puts in a lot of work. So the next part, this package pretty much builds itself. So I won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but you have your 4 Gokules. It is probably the best searcher in the entire game. Pay 1, it draws out your big boy, which we're going to talk about here in a second.
I don't think there's any other good searcher for Unisons than this card right here.
Yeah, I think they basically made this, and they were like, maybe we'll make all searchers like this. And they're like, oh, that was too good. We're not gonna do that anymore. And then if it stays on board or manages to stay on board, that ideal turn 2 play is you play your Unison, and then the 1 on tap, you tap this, reveal your 6-drop, and go get your pieces. It is good all the time. It's incredible. So from there, the 6-drop that it plays off of, the fact that it has deflect is incredible. It is dual attack for 2. KO's a card, and then you get to draw 2. And then with the Unison, if you have it on board, you're basically drawing 3. It is a really broken card, really, really good. And it puts a lot of pressure early. And then your Unison piece, or not your Unison, your fusion pieces, you run 4 of this guy because he counts as both. And then a lot of people are running 2. You run 3 of the Trunks because he fetches a Unison on play, and then 1 Goten because it has a lot of synergy with Zarbon, with Dormant. You can pitch it and then get it right back. A lot of people were sleeping on this card pre-Gen Con, and I bought my playset for $2, and now they're sitting at like $15 for 1. Yeah, everybody slept on that card, and then they realized that you could just read, and that it's really, really good. And then on that note, I run 1 of the 5-drop with just that evolves. For a couple of reasons. It's barrier removal, which is huge. It's Unison marker removal, which can also be very relevant. And it is that double strike. You basically try to bait them out with some swings on that. When he restands, I moved him over there already. Then you play that for the double strike. It can be very, very relevant and very, very important. It's a very good utility card. So speaking of that Unison we talked about, 4 of these, it is just incredible. It comes in with 2 markers. It pluses 2 every single time, so it always stays at those high markers. And it puts your opponent on that time clock of, am I going to deal with this Unison or am I going to deal with his life? Like it says, the top ability, you get to gain that draw if you activate a Union skill. The +2 itself gives a blocker revenge, so hopefully you've got that Zarbon on. And then the -7 is just incredible. Look at your opponent's life, crit 1 of them, and then they discard 3. Now, this is where I get a little bit different and where I disagree with a lot of people and why I asked Bancroft to let me do the profile. Because, like I said, this deck pretty much builds itself, but there are a few things that I disagree with that I think are neat. I think he is the better secondary Unison. I know a lot of people think that the Bobbity from the Anniversary box is a good one. It's like Vegeta Bobbity. It's the AOD one.
That's a 4 energy cost.
Yeah, I don't like that because
it's a good closer, but I do agree with this right here because it does cycle cards for you.
Yeah. And like I said, it's a good closer, but hopefully this is my closer. You know what I mean? Like, this should be my closer. And really aggressive matchups, the -2 can be very relevant. If you want to stonewall them, that can come into handy. Plus that critical. People just overreact to critical and will make poor choices to it. So I really think that's the better secondary Unison. So another thing that I disagree with that I wanted to talk about is I think you should run 4 18 super combos. Not only because it's my favorite art in the game, But I think the extra hand control is very relevant, and people don't expect multiple 18s to come on board. The deck draws enough on its own that I think you can warrant running a non-drawing super combo. I think people just get too greedy with the Paragus or the Gohan. And that's kind of what the deck does, is it wants to get your opponent into that resource sort of denial or that kind of grindy game. So I really do think this is the right call.
And I can add to that real quick.
Yeah.
With the Unison and Gotenks package, you're drawing 3.
Yeah,
You don't.
it's-
If you're. Yes, drawing more cards, I do agree with that, is a good. But this makes your opponent make a choice.
Yeah. I don't think I meant to mention in the beginning, Bancroft was actually the one who gave me the original Gotenks list, and then I kind of ran with it from there. And most of this is very close to his. It's just evolved because that was...
I didn't play these ones.
Yeah,
But I
and-
do agree with your decision, though.
Yeah, and that was also set like 12 when that came out. So
Yeah.
a lot of stuff has improved or come out from there. Honestly, if you're not running 4 dormants, you are one crazy dude. The negate is incredible. I don't think it needs to be explained. It's free if you have the Unison on board. I'm going to explain anyways, but it's free if the Unison's on board. It has the removal or 2 or less or up to 2. And then if you discard the green, which goes back to why we run one of those Gotenks or run the Zarbons later, you're going to stonewall them to 1 more attack per turn. This just lets you get to those later turns or lets you get into those swing turns later on.
Yeah. And with a deck that likes to awaken, go down to 6 life on turn 2 right away, you're using a lot of your energy to maximize your plays, and having a free negate is always great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 2 is a good amount for this one. Green Topo. I don't want to say it's unexpected because it's a good card and people run it, but it is a great alternative negate that really puts your opponent in a difficult position. Plus, it goes into the hand control aspect of those 18s. If they want to try to play through this, they're going to pay for it. On top of that, 2 sparking negates, Shocking Death Ball. That's been out since set 5, but it's great to have sparking negate and again minor removal. And then from there, 2 homicidal clones. Now, I'm a little bit negate heavy. You could probably cut some depending on your personal preference. I think this puts in a lot of work, especially if you're playing that dormant. You can use this to negate, and then might be not the most optimal play because your blocker doesn't get blocker for the entire time, but you can play this if you don't have a dormant and play a dormant later into that, and then you have your blocker, but it's just a good staple negate. Speaking of good staple counterplays, coming up after we're out of negates, you've got 4 charismatic villains. Really, really good. Remember, kids, it gets around deflect. I don't like arguing with people about that, but it does because the auto is what does the KO. Had to argue about that today. All right, with that being said, 2 Zarbons. A lot of people run more. You can get away with running more, but this is already at 55 cards, so probably too much. We've already talked about it pretty ad nauseum. Pay 1 comes into play. Use the +2 on the Unison. It's a blocker with revenge, and if they've got 5 or more cards, they discard a card. So really, really handy. I run 2 EDKs, great for removal, especially because you get to pick the card that they remove. It's random, obviously, and it's a good defensive piece as well, or offensive piece, depending on where you're in that particular place in the game. Again, good removal. And then this is something that's been removed from decks, which I think is very odd, but Rebrand, I run 2. I just think it's great to be able to go into turn 4 or 5 and just take out their whole hand. It synergizes well with everything where you drop, but people aren't running this anymore because I was going to say have a hard-on for Rosie, but I guess that's dirty.
Rosie's good for aggression, but you have good battle cards to do damage.
I agree. They're just fat shaming. Rosie's skinnier. And then 2 Zamasus because it's old school successor, and you go and steal your charismatic, and then it's indestructible, more hand control. Real good. I like one of those because a lot of stuff KOs, and it's fun to get a 15k crit on board because people overreact to crit. And then 2 other inclusions that are just tech pieces that I like, don't feel like you have to. Son Goku, Spirit Bomb Unleashed. If they take care of your Unison to where you're not going to get into that -7 and you want to get some value out of it, this is just a great way to activate main and do a double strike into it. Still gives you value even though, again, it's just an inclusion. More barrier removal and double strike. It's another great piece. I don't really need to get into it too much. And then 2 Overrealm. I think the dual attack is better because you've already got so much dual attack. It's a 25k body. It's really aggressive, especially after you poke and prod them with all the other stuff. And then the last thing that I really, really disagree with everybody else on, I think that is the secret rare you run. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, buddy, can you count to 12? And it's like, yeah, I can. And there's a lot of ways to make 12 on the board, so why not run Cell X? But with the errata being you have to have 5 energy, yeah, you can get to turn 5, but people know that's coming. This is basically a green hatch, and it steals a Unison. I just think that's better. I don't think there are enough instances where you can get into Cell X, and I don't think Cell X is good enough that it automatically ends a game. This, timed correctly, can end a game.
It can also stop super aggro deck from attacking you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
no, it's a good option, and like I said, people aren't going to expect it. People see Gotenks go, okay, cool, turn 5 sell.
Yep.
Well, with that being said, thank you all for tuning in. Keep in mind there's buttons below, and there's stuff down there you put comments. Feel free to do it because they're there for a reason. Read your cards, know your plays. Fluff out.